Are fans right to be worried about Derby County's slide down the table? The Christmas period has not been great for the Rams. Where will it end? People want Warne out again. I thought we were done with that. Welcome back to Where Rams Walk. We've got Kieran and Theo back with us. Hope you are well. Happy New Year. If you've just come across us, drop us a quick subscribe and a quick like. It's 20 minutes of Derby County chat where we review all the games and look at all the gossip and all the comments. Let's jump straight into it straight away, Kieran. I've watched a bit of Derby over Christmas with this time off, but I've got to say, as a neutral, I'm a bit worried for you. Are you worried?
It's been quite a poor New Year's. It's been a tough run after the West Brom win. It's been loss after loss after loss. And personally for me, it's a injury hit side. Also, there's been a virus passed through the team over the past week or so. I'm anxious, but I'm not too worried. I think when we get the players back that we need and we have a starting 11 that's able to compete, we should be there. We should be able to survive, stay up. But it's been a tough run, and I can tell that a lot of fans are starting to become a little bit more impatient.
Yeah, I mean, I was convinced, Theo, there were three worse teams than you. I was convinced that Plymouth were worse than you, Oxford were worse than you, and Portsmouth were worse than you, and that you would be absolutely fine. Now, with Gary Rowett in at Oxford and Portsmouth starting to be, fortress, Fratton Park is, I'm a little bit worried for you guys.
Yeah, I'm starting to get a little bit more worried than I was when I probably, say about a month ago when I was last on. Because, like you say, now Gary Rowett's at Oxford. We know he's an experienced manager in this league. We know he can get good performances out of, harsh on Oxford, but I would say probably not good enough players, which is ironic maybe coming from our standpoint. I would still say there's three teams worse than us. Plymouth definitely is one. I would say Cardiff is probably another. And I still say Pompey can be quite inconsistent. I mean, they've got that 4-0 home victory to Swansea, but then away from home, they're a bit like us. So slightly worried, yes, because we'll have good spells in games, but if we go 1-0 down like we did against Bristol City, we didn't seem to kind of get anything back. We didn't seem to get any momentum. So I'm starting to get a little bit more worried than I was.
Okay. Let's have a look back at some of the results here then. I mean, first of all, we should talk about that West Brom game, Kieran, because that was live on Sky. I was at the Stoke Leeds games. We were watching it in the pub, and I thought you were phenomenal in that game. A bit nervy towards the end, but and then the Leeds fans were very gracious and saying you're actually excellent against them in that game, and it could have gone either way, but the quality just shone through. But then you go away from home and shocking at Sheffield Wednesday and not much better at Bristol City. How can you be so inconsistent?
It's a difficult one. So this is my personal opinion. I think when we played West Brom, we were perhaps fortunate that they just lost their manager and they were having a little bit of a wobble in their stability for the side. When we played Leeds, do I think we were the better side? No. I think maybe we deserved a point, but it was a very well-worked goal, so I've got no complaints. And at the end of the day, if you look at the squad Leeds have in terms of money, I think they put on Dan James, who's worth more than our entire side. So I'm not going to, hold it against Derby. The Sheffield Wednesday loss was really, really poor. It was really embarrassing, in my opinion, because you shouldn't be conceding 4 goals against Sheffield Wednesday. I didn't even think in the first half we were completely, blown away. I thought, if Yates put away a chance, we could have, well and truly, been in there. But yeah, it was poor. And then Bristol City as well. I thought we weren't terrible, but we were never going to get 3 points. That was always my impression. And as soon as Bristol scored, you can tell there was a shift in the atmosphere. And yeah.
January, we'll talk about the transfers in a minute, Theo, but certainly it's going to be a big month, isn't it, for the owners of Derby here to put some money into this squad. Otherwise, there is a danger you're heading back to whence you came.
Yeah, it is going to be a big month. I mean, I think the one issue is that we don't have a lot of money. You know, he's a local businessman. He's done obviously absolutely amazing things. Can't say anything bad about David Clowes whatsoever. But there is one thing that he hasn't got a lot of money. And now this squad needs a lot of tuning. We need maybe not a lot of players out, but a couple of players out before I say a couple of players come in. But the issue is with the players that probably need to go, I don't see any really clubs that will come in for our players that we want to get rid of. And then at the same time, we don't really have the financial backing to bring players in. We're going to be looking, you know, at players probably from abroad who probably haven't ever played in the league before. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a big month for Paul Warne. I think they are going to back him. That's one thing I know, that they'll back him, but it's how much money they actually back him with.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the worn out tweets and messages, Kieran, have started up again. You can understand that given the run of results. How secure is his job out of 10, do you think?
You know what? I think his job is secure 10 out of 10. And the reason I think that is if, let's say, worst case scenario, Derby go down, I feel like Paul Warne is the guy you would want to take us back up anyway. And I think it's a negative way of looking at it, but I think it's the truth. And also, you've got to think at this time, if you were, let's say, to get in a new manager, I thought the safest bet, ironically, would have been Gary Rowett with his links to Derby, albeit I don't think the style of football would be too indifferent. So, yeah, I think his job's safe, but I think his relationship with the fan base and the support as a whole could be fractured, especially with this FA Cup tie now against Leyton Orient, which I'm a bit nervous about given their form. So, yeah, I'm warning. I'm going to continue being warning, but he's got his work cut out.
Theo, has he got January to save his job for you, or does he get the rest of the season regardless?
Well, I think I completely agree with everything Kieran said. I think the worst time to sack a manager is probably right now, because they would have had plans in place for, well, you'd hope since the summer transfer window ended, to get players in now. So for me, I think he has to stay because we need consistency. And I mean, personally, I don't see another manager now that we could bring in. I mean, I wouldn't have ever wanted Gary Rowett back, but if it happened, I would have understood why. Because we know if he came to Derby, he would have kept us in the league. But I think Wall will be fine. But it is huge, this transfer window, because if we get it right, I think we will be absolutely fine. But if not, then I will start to worry, because there are still other teams around us teams around us at the minute, like Stoke, like Coventry, who can invest. So yeah, it's a big window for him.
Absolutely. The good news for Derby, of course, is that of the 3 that are likely to go down, there's about 9, maybe even 10 teams that are right down, sucked into that position. So this is it's not 3 from 4 at the moment, is it? It's probably 3 from 9, of which, of course, you are one. At the end of the video, so stay for that. We'll talk about players that we've heard rumours about and who these guys want to come in. Drop your comments below as well. But we can leave the Championship aside for 1 week and enjoy, I'm not sure that's the right word, but we can enjoy a trip to Leyton Orient this weekend. First of all, Kieran, I think when the draw was made, I'm not sure Leyton Orient were in the form that they're in now, but you are now playing League One's in-form team. Just Derby's luck, isn't it?
You know what? I was actually just looking at their form just before we filmed this video, and I don't think they've lost in the league since November.
Yeah.
And they beat Barnsley 4-0 away. They look quite strong, and I just worry. You know, they're playing us at a time where we're going to be maybe thinking, is it worth an FA Cup run? Because we could well and truly get a Premier League side in the next round and just simply lose anyway. So it's a balance. And I'm thinking, if I'm Paul Warne, I'm just going to use this game to get some minutes for maybe David Ozo if he can come back from injury. Try and work with the squad the best I can. But it's going to be difficult. I'm a bit nervous personally.
it's a hard one for him. But thank you, Kieran. It's a hard one, Theo, isn't it? Because on the one hand, he doesn't want a humiliating defeat, but on the other hand, he could do with being knocked out of this cup as quickly as possible, so you could focus on the league. Because your January fixtures as it is are home games against Watford and Sunderland. Those two games happen within 4 days of each other, and then a trip to Cardiff City, which is going to be possibly a relegation 6-pointer at the end of the month. So you don't really want a fourth round tie squeezed in there, do you?
Well, I always think a good cup run breeds good habits. It breeds good winning habits. But what I would say is when we go to Leyton Orient, I think we will make at least 6-7 changes, and our squad depth isn't that good. And honestly, if we do make those 6-7 changes, I can't say this is going to sound quite bad, but I don't think I can actually be confident to say we can beat Leyton Orient. And that is for me quite worrying. I think our strongest first team definitely could, obviously. But if we made, 7 or 8 changes, I couldn't be confident to say we could win. But if we did win that game, I think FA Cup runs are good, but that's the thing. They are good for teams with good squad depth, right? Because they breed good winning habits, and the bench players get their game time, and mentality is great and morale's great. But it's not good if you're playing your second string team and then they can't even win against a League One side, no matter how good of form they're in. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I always think the FA Cup can, bring maybe that spark, but we'll have to wait and see.
Let's have a look at your pedigree in the FA Cup, shall we? In recent years, I mean, there was that Crewe result last year, which we won't mention in the first round. Yeah, I mean, you've, in comparison to other teams, Kieran, you've actually done all right in the FA Cup. I mean, you've got a better record than Leeds and Sheffield Wednesday and Sheffield United in the last couple of rounds. You're getting to the 4th round, 5th rounds here and there. You're not getting knocked out in the 3rd round as often as others. But why do you think it is the case that Derby County historically only have one FA Cup to their name?
I mean, I could be getting my numbers wrong here, but I think maybe this was before the war. I've heard that maybe Derby made a few FA Cup finals and lost them before we won it eventually, just after the war. So I think recently, this is just like from what I've experienced, I can't really remember us having many good FA Cup runs. And I think it's a great source of money, but when you face like the financial difficulties we've had over the past few years, it's one of them ones where it's short term. You're going to have to field the squad when you're already in a congested fixture schedule. You're probably going to be playing teams around you. You need to pick up points. Long term, though, if you were to have a good FA Cup run, let's say we were to make the 6th round and play good teams, get some good gate money in, that could actually bolster our, transfer pot. So it's a difficult one. Let's not talk about last season, because going to work after that was
just forgotten that one. Okay, no. It doesn't help because you've run into Man United far many times than many other teams would. Okay. All right. Finally, this week, then we're talking January transfer window. What are the rumours? Who do these guys want to see in? Theo, talk to me about names you'd like to see. Loans. Any rumours?
Well, I think the first rumour I've seen is Harvey Nibbs from Reading. He would be a good player to bring in. We definitely need a 10 because Kenzo Haldmine is not really been fancied in the 10. Paul's more played him like an 8. I think we need a 10 in that squad. He would probably come around 750,000, which is probably our price range, which is about where we can go. I mean, that's probably a more realistic one. I mean, players I'd like to see in is obviously a striker, but I don't think we're going to be able to get a championship level quality striker in. I mean, this is definitely unrealistic, but I think one player I would love if we could have signed in the summer or somehow try and, lure him away from Stoke is Tom Cannon. Because when we went Stoke away, I thought he was an absolute great player, but obviously that wouldn't happen. Somebody else, maybe somebody like Brandon Thomas Asante, but again, he signed for Coventry in the summer. He's probably played a bit part for them, but again, he would look about 3 million if you bought him. I don't think Coventry would sell him anyway. So I think throughout the transfer window, apart from somebody like Harvey Nibbs, I think we'll be looking at basically players from abroad, really, or maybe a Premier League loan that is inexperienced.
I think Portsmouth are after Nibbs as well, aren't they?
And Oxford, I think.
And Oxford, yeah. Kieran?
Yeah.
I would have said Harvey Nibbs as well. I quite like the look of him. I think with Reading as well, because they've got a bit of instability now with their manager. Hopefully, as bad as it sounds, we could get a few of their players for a little bit cheaper than expected. I do think it's going to be difficult. I would have liked or hoped that Derby do go in for a striker. As I think Paul Warne's even referred to it in his post-match interviews, that going for a striker is always the most expensive in respect to other players and other positions. So it'd be difficult. My heart, not my brain, but my heart would go with Poku from Peterborough. But I think he's going to be in the millions price range. And Peterborough, they're a well-run club, so I don't think it's going to be reasonable. I think if we were going to go for loans, this might seem a little bit of a weird one, but there's Lino Sosa, and he's an Arsenal Academy graduate, but he was signed for Aston Villa in the summer when they were just signing everyone for the financial fair play. And he's on loan at Bristol Rovers, but I think he's a really talented player. And I think if we were to have Paul Warne as a manager who would be able to manage his fitness levels, he'd be a really, really good signing. That's just me, but yeah, we'll have to see how things go.
Right. Thank you very much, both of you. Let us know in the comments below if you can come up with any more names with what Derby can manage on their shoestring budget. Thank you very much, both of you. Good luck against Leyton Orient. 6 o'clock kickoff on Saturday night. Not good for the travelling Derby fans, is it, at all? But no, we'll of course review that game with you, of course, next week, and then we'll look ahead to the Championship fixtures in January. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in 7 days' time. Have a good week.